everybody, it's Paul. I wanted to do a series of videos growing rainbow eucalyptus trees. I did kind of an overview video a few months ago. I kind of skipped over a few steps though. It was just sort of showing the overall process. So I think it'll be beneficial if we do a step-by-step video series where I'm taking you through the different things I'm doing to grow these in a little more detail. And I wanted to do this first video kind of looking at supplies and why I'm using them. The seedlings are pretty fragile when they're young, so I think using some of these can help you avoid some of the problems people have when they are growing these, and it causes them to die when they're just little sprouts. So I'll take you through that. Before we start, I wanted to kind of think about what you're planting these trees for. These are native to some areas of the Philippines, but most of the Philippines, these actually aren't native. That doesn't mean you necessarily shouldn't plant them, but you need to think about your purposes in planting them. So if you're wanting to do some kind of a forest reforestation, rehabilitation, something like that, you probably, if these aren't native to your local area, you probably want to look at some species that are native. The reason you want to do that is because any flora and fauna that are still there are going to be adapted to those species and need them, so you're going to be having a little more benefit because of that. Whereas these aren't necessarily going to cause harm. From what I've read, they don't really seem to be as invasive as other species of eucalyptus, or have a lot of the problems that other eucalyptus species have. But it is something to consider. They do have flowers that attract pollinators, so it's not like they're all bad. But if you're wanting to do some kind of ecosystem restoration, rehabilitation, probably want to look at some other species. But these are good species for ornamental trees, as long as you have the area for them. They do grow very fast. Within a decade, they're going to be a big tree already. So you don't want to plant it right next to your house. They're really tall trees also. As far as timber species, when I was communicating with an extension office in Hawaii, they said this is actually the preferred species of eucalyptus for timber. It doesn't have a lot of the problems when the timber is drying that other species have, and it's apparently similar timber to red lauan. So it is something that you could consider for that also. But you need to look at your whole situation, where you're at, what you're using the tree for, before you decide to actually plant them. But if you decide to go ahead and plant them, let's look at some of the supplies you'll want to have ready to go. And a lot of this isn't absolutely necessary, but it's something that I think helps make the process go a little more easy for you. So first is these right here. These are peat pellets, or peat pods. These you can buy online. A lot of garden stores have them too. You can buy them in bulk. You can buy them in little kits, like there will be kits that come with these little plastic trays to put them in. That's a little more expensive, actually quite a bit more expensive than buying them in bulk. That's really just a plastic tray, so I would just buy them in bulk and just use like these takeout trays for them. It's going to work the same way. The reason I like to use these is they hold moisture well, and one of the problems with these seedlings is if they dry out after just a day or two of being dry, they'll die when they're young. When they're just young sprouts or little seedlings, they'll die really quickly. So it's important that you keep even moisture for them, and these peat pellets help to do that. Also, you can do this with other planting systems too, but these are pretty easy to water from the bottom. When I say that, I mean when the peat pellet is in the tray, you can pour the water into the tray and they'll absorb it from down below. What that does is, with those fragile young sprouts, you don't have to pour water straight on them, so you're not knocking them over and possibly damaging them. So they're not too expensive. They're pretty useful for planting. I've used them for other trees too. They work well. The next thing you might consider, again, this isn't absolutely necessary, is some kind of a mycorrhizal inoculant. This one was made for eucalyptus trees. There's different types. Some work well with eucalyptus, some don't. I would get one that's specially developed, special combination of fungi for eucalyptus trees. I put up a video where I'm talk about those a little more if you want to check that out. Next, you want to think about where are you going to grow these seedlings. They're a species of tree that in nature, I've read that they will grow up after an area has been flooded and the plants that were there were washed away. So they're kind of an emergent species. They grow up quickly, grow tall, and when they're there, then other forest species start to come in and repopulate the area. So they do like it wet, and they also like to have plenty of light. But you have to be careful because if you're in a place that has high temperatures, just blazing sun, it's going to be a little difficult to keep them wet enough and keep from damaging them from getting too hot. So try to think of a situation like a window or maybe a partially shaded area where they're still going to get plenty of light when they're young, but they are not going to dry out really quickly, like over the course of a day, if you're not watering them just constantly, or where it's just going to be too hot for them. I've heard some people use grow lights for them too. That would be a way you could really control the light and temperature together. Just want to read about the grow lights you're using. There are some actual dangers for people involved with these modern grow lights. They're relatively cheap, but some of them do put out some wavelengths that or some intensities that could actually be harmful for a person. So you want to kind of watch what you're doing with those. But really, that's the basic stuff you're going to need. Next would be seeds, of course. I'm going to do a separate video on that because I think it kind of warrants good time to collect the seeds and how to get them out of their pods easily. So we'll look at that in our next video. And I hope this was useful for you. I know this is just some basic stuff here, this first video, but I think it's important to start off prepared. The seeds can last a while without after they've been released by the tree before you plant them, but the longer you wait, of course, the fewer that are going to survive. So I think it's good to be prepared, and when you do have access to the seeds, you can plant them right away. So we'll see you in our next video. Have a nice day. See ya.